Hassan's in Slough. Hassan, why are you so excited today?
I've always been excited since I was a boy. Now, I don't know which came first, whether it was astronomy or whether it was Star Trek, but I had a fascination in both from a very young age. And I think the reason why, as a species, we are so curious is because that's really what separates us from other species, that we are naturally curious about the world, about the universe we live in. And for us to explore that and discover how the universe was made, where are we going, what is our place in the universe, that is the ultimate fascination.
I don't know that I mean, I can see that it is for you and for Professor Hal and John in Kingston, the lecturer, but for my 7-year-old, why is she so excited?
Have you asked her? Has she given the reason?
Well, that's not an answer, is it? I'm asking you. Why is my 7-year-old so excited about space?
Well, okay, but when I was 7, I could probably answer that, because when I was 7, I was very excited because it was curiosity. It was really venturing into the unknown. I mean, at that
when they're 7 years old, the other side of the road is unknown. She's not allowed to go to Budgeons on her own. Why is she so excited about space?
Because space is vast.
It is, isn't it? It's vast in a way that it doesn't really lend itself to describing in traditional terms. You just begin to sound like a stoned teenager if you try to describe how large it is. Oh, man, it's like endless.
Well, actually, the first ever lecture I gave on astronomy was when I was 16 years old at my boarding school. So I don't think people thought I was a bit dopey. They really were fascinated because I showed them the slides of various galaxies. Professor Hal talked about Betelgeuse about to explode. Well, there was a star that did explode in 1987. That was actually quite, fascinated by astronomers. And I really have to take issue with those who say that you're just wasting money on space travel or space in relation to eliminating poverty, etc. Space travel does not cause poverty. There is plenty of money around to alleviate poverty.
Hey, I know. And in the same way that foreign aid isn't causing poverty either or making old people cold, it's a bit like, actually, to return to my children, it's a bit like when they ask if they can spend their birthday money again. They've spent it on one thing. Can I spend it again, please? It isn't either or. Of course it isn't either or. I know that. Anyone with a functioning brain knows that. But it's still a powerful,
That's right, yeah.
It's a powerful rhetorical point to say, oh, if it wasn't for foreign aid, we could all have £1 million. If it wasn't for foreign aid, there wouldn't be any poverty. If it wasn't for foreign aid, there wouldn't be this, there wouldn't be that. I do, however, wonder whether we need to be paying for India to have a space program.
Well, they're paying themselves. That's the thing, and that's why we were, as a country, we're no longer going to give them aid, as far as I understand, because we've given them aid and they've done it themselves. China has sent a man into space. So, no, it is fascinating, and I think long term there is an economic benefit as well. I mean, there will be spin-off technologies that will be invented, but also
some great games couldn't have been made if it wasn't for footage got in space.
Yeah, exactly, and the space has unlimited resources that we could utilize. So, for example, the Cassini mission that went to Titan, which is one of the moons of Saturn, found lakes and lakes of liquid ethane and methane. So that would be an unlimited source of supply. So imagine if we could actually utilize that. And furthermore, as technology develops within the next few hundred years, for us to be able to travel vast distances in the shortest period of time, that would be fascinating.
So you were unsurprised to learn that the space station is only 250 miles away?
No, when you asked the question to the previous caller, the figure I had was actually 250 miles. But then when you mentioned 300 miles between Scarborough and wherever it was, and I thought, I got it wrong by 50 miles, actually.
258.
Okay, yeah, it's 250 miles because that's roughly the level that the space shuttle would also orbit around. And also, there is a philosophical element here, which you did touch on. Let me just draw your attention to the Space Shuttle Columbia disaster in 2003. One of the astronauts was Ilan Ramon. I don't know if you heard of him. No. He was actually an Israeli Air Force pilot, one of the pilots that bombed the Osirak nuclear power station in Iraq in 1981. Oh. And he was an astronaut in the Columbia space shuttle. And when he actually looked down on Earth, for him it was a transformation because he did not see borders between countries. He saw mankind as one unit, and that truly transformed him. And you just think all those petty differences we have, whether it's terrorism, fighting, they all pale into insignificance when we look at the Earth from above.
My colleague Axel is nodding in a very sage fashion. What he should have been doing at that point while you were talking, because this is his job, he should have been fading up Imagine by John Lennon as you were. Instead of sitting there nodding away on your every syllable, he should have been fading up a bit of John Lennon there, because that was kind of what you were saying. You see the Earth from space, the idea that you're going to have a fight over a tribal loyalty or a national boundary, it is a little bit absurd, isn't it?
Yeah, and my final point is that as a Muslim, it is really, really frustrating. The reason why I say this is today, when the media talks about Muslims, it's about terrorism, about the veil. Now, if the media existed 500-600 years' time, they would have been reporting the latest advances that Muslims were making in the field of astronomy. So when Professor Howell mentioned Betelgeuse, that's actually in the constellation of Orion. The surrounding stars in that constellation are Rigel, Aldebaran, Al-Nilam, Al-Mintaka, that's the Orion's belt. Those are Arabic names, and they really, truly made advances at that time. So for me, it's really frustrating because where we were as a community then, where we are now, it's like chalk and cheese. Day and night.
Well, I'm glad Axel didn't fade up Imagine, actually, Hassan, because I think your final point was every bit as powerful as your previous ones. What amazing calls we're getting today, now.